Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this Women Worth in Wellness virtual event. Women Worth in Wellness is celebrating 30 years this year. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe how fast time goes by. But today's topic is extremely important, and it's about on-demand mental health support for busy women. And we know that busy women are in all sorts of different roles. We've got teachers, we've got CEOs, we've got board members, we have doctors, we have nurses, we have stay-at-home moms, we have 20-somethings, we have newly widowed women who are anticipating loneliness and how do I deal with that? So a whole host of challenges from a mental health standpoint. Before I introduce Kevin, who's our featured guest speaker today, I want to thank both of our sponsors. One is Paul Chapman, RBC Investment and Wealth Advisor, who's been a sponsor of these Women Worth in Wellness events over the last 5 years, and has been a delight to work with Paul. Not only is he extremely capable as a wealth advisor, but he's just a perfect guy to work with. So Paul, do you want to say a couple of words so they can see your smiling face?
Yeah, I don't need to say much. Thank you, though. No, as some of you know that have been with us for a while, I've been working with Nancy and Women Worth in Wellness for some time, and it's been a wonderful partnership. But this is something I'm especially passionate about with this subject. I just, given that life seems to only speed up for most of us over time, there's many factors that influence that, but I think we've all experienced challenges with our friends or family, or even with within ourselves with some struggles, and so I'm honored to support this initiative, and this discussion will be a great one, I think.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Paul, because you're absolutely right. I don't think there's anybody, any of us knows, who isn't struggling with some sort of angst one way or another. I will now introduce Kevin, and Kevin and I met last year in Niagara when he and I were both guest speakers. So he heard my presentation, I heard his presentation, and we said, oh my goodness, we need to talk. Because once we started talking, we realized the best investment of all, of anything, is investing in your good health. Well, how do we invest in our good health? 30 years ago, when I started Women Worth in Wellness, it was all about breast cancer, maybe a little bit on heart disease for women. And of course, the research being different for women versus men, symptoms, we know that whole scenario. But mental health, I think, was way low on the spectrum. And of course, life has changed considerably over the last 30 years. And I'm thinking we just aren't together so much as a community anymore so that we can help those people. So what caught my attention in talking to Kevin, coming out of May, or the Mental Health Awareness Month, is the on-demand. He said, we've got mental health support for busy women on demand. Well, that got my attention and said, we have to do something. So Kevin, over to you. Please take it away and share with us everything you can on how we can all stay on top of the world like all those Edmonton Oilers are right now.
Yes, awesome. Great, Nancy. Thank you so much, and great to see everyone. And I believe this is one of the most important topics that we can be talking about right now. So I'm very pleased to share with you our views and hopefully the solutions that we've developed that can help each and every one of you on a daily basis. Before we get into things, I'd like to introduce my business partner, who's Advica Health's COO, and that's Asta Sani. Asta, as I said, is my business partner, been with me for over 10 years, and she has a passion for mental health and mental wellness, and actually has her master's in psychology. So she's very well versed in the mental health area. So I've asked her to join us today as well, just for her expertise as well. So Asta, welcome. So today, what the agenda is, if I can just go through that, is first of all, I'm just going to give you some background on Advica Health, our company. Then we're going to talk a bit about mental health versus mental illness, because there is a differentiator there. And then we're going to talk about trends, what we're seeing in the industry, and the barriers around mental health, because there are a lot of barriers out there right now that we see on a daily basis. And then we're going to talk about our solution, which is mental health on demand. So to start us off, I'm going to talk. Nancy talked briefly about our company and what brought us together, Advica Health, and both both of our passions to help people to live long and healthy lives. But just to give you some background and the genesis of Advica Health. So I grew up, I've been in the employee benefits business for over 40 years. First of all, on the corporate side of things. And then in 1998, I went out and started my own employee benefits consulting firm. So I dealt with companies, presidents, CEOs, executives, and many people like you on this call today, and help them with their health plans. So we would put in health and dental plans and pension plans for companies across Canada. And through that work, many times when people had health issues, because I looked after their benefits, they would reach out to me for assistance. And I would then go through my connections, like at MedCan or Cleveland Clinic or different clinics, help people get through the health system quickly and efficiently. And it kept happening over and over again. And it was actually a business owner that we helped him, first of all, diagnose that he had stage 1 kidney cancer through some advanced testing that we offer. And then we were able to help him get eradicated. And whenever I see him to this day, still half jokingly says I saved his life. And I, of course, didn't save his life, but through testing, I was able to save his life. And he said, you know, if ever you could do what you did for me, help A, get me diagnosed, B, get me through the system quickly and efficiently. He said, I think that'd be a valuable business for your benefits customers. So I went out and did, I thought there's got to be somebody in Canada doing health navigation. This is about 10 years ago. So I put together requests for proposals with different areas, health navigation, getting second opinions for people when they had a health issue, getting executive medicals, and also mental health support. And what I soon found out when I went across the country is there was no one offering all those services under one roof. They were all silos. In other words, companies like Chappelle said, we can handle your mental health, and executive medical clinics like Cleveland Clinic and MedCan said, we can do that piece, but nobody could do it under one roof. So I thought, you know what, this would be a valuable business for my benefits customers. So I decided to start a company at that point, Advica Health, and I went out and hired a health professional to help my benefits customers navigate and get through the health system. And what I quickly found out is we were getting people through the system quickly. We were advocating for them. We were pushing the system. We were giving them the best of private and public healthcare. And the company just grew because what do people talk about? People talk about wait times and how they're stuck in the system and they have nobody advocating for them. So I actually sold my benefits business to really do this full time, because this is my passion, is health, and to help people live long and healthy lives. So I know today that we're going to focus really on mental health, which is part of our offering. But what our company's about is to help our members, because you join as a member for our program, and Nancy, as she said, is a member of our program. We help our members to get access, so quick access, but quick isn't necessarily good. You also need the right access, and that's where that word expert comes in. So, you know, quick in healthcare isn't necessarily great. I mean, we do want quicker, but we also want the best. So what I always say is what we do very well is we put our arm around people and help guide them through the health system so they can live long and healthy lives. And that's what we do right now, right across Canada. We are 24/7. We have nurses and medical team and specialists right across Canada, and we help people navigate and get through the health system. So turning to the next slide, just to share a little more in depth, what I always say is we're a cross between the public and the private system. So some of our members say, I don't care what it costs, I just want the best private options. Most of our members say, I just want help navigating through the public system because of the wait times and the delays and everything else. And that's really what Advica does, is we are a hybrid between the public and the private system, and not to be confused with benefits, because one of the things we're often asked is, you know, well, I have a health plan that will, let's say, pay for psychiatrists or will pay for masseuse. And I always say, you know, health benefits are what pays for the benefits or pays for the treatment. But what Advica does is we help get our members to the right solution quickly and efficiently, whether that's through the public system or the private system. So for many of our members, they look at what the title is, they look at us and what we call Health Simplified, because a lot of times people just want peace of mind They want to know somebody's looking after them and somebody's got their back and somebody's guiding them through the health system. And that's really what we do for our members. So we're going to shift gears now and get into actually mental health and mental illness, and they are different. I mean, often we hear these terms. I'll say there's a lot of confusion out there. We hear mental illness, we hear mental health, and they are quite different. So I'm going to turn it over to Asta to take us through the next few slides. So Asta.
Thanks, Cav. Appreciate that. So I'm going to encourage everyone to just think for a second, what words come to mind when someone says mental health to you, right? So some of us might be thinking depression, others might think anxiety, maybe even psychiatry comes up for people. And really what we're all thinking about actually is mental illness, right? And that's really why we wanted to start off the topic today with what is that core difference between mental illness and mental health, as many of us do use these terms interchangeably, but what they really mean are different things, right? So mental illness is disturbances in thoughts, feelings, perceptions that are quite severe, and they do impact our day-to-day functioning, right? So thinking of things like anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, mood disorders, or major depressive disorder. Whereas mental health is something we all have, right? It's a state of well-being. It is similar to how we all have physical health. It is the health of our mind and our bodies and how they're in sync. And it's also about not just survival, but how we thrive with our mental health and well-being. So it's important to know that difference, especially given the stats that we're all seeing. 1 in 5 people in Canada are experiencing challenges with their mental health, or mental illness might be something that is playing in their minds, but 5 out of 5 of us have mental health. And that is very important for us to think about the preventative pieces for our mental health and well-being, especially as women, because we are notorious for putting that on the back burner. So just wanted to highlight that for the group, and hopefully that sparks a little bit more of a discussion, even if it is internally or amongst your peers and even at home. And most often when we talk about mental health versus mental illness, a lot of times people will say, okay, but then what is good mental health? Like, what am I striving towards? Like, what should I be doing, or how should I be feeling when I can actually come out and say I have good mental health? And over the years, through research, what we found is there's 6 common factors that are related to our well-being, just our overall well-being, more from a standpoint of our mental health. And those 6 factors include a sense of purpose. So that could be tied very well to our professional lives as well. Are we doing purposeful work every day when we wake up in the morning? Do we have a sense of accomplishment and a sense of excitement towards the purposeful work that we're going to embark on? And number 2 is strong relationships. And they tie beautifully to a sense of purpose as well, because for a lot of us, that purpose might be very well related to our children. What kind of world do we want to leave for them? Our partners, our parents, our grandparents, friends and family members, and our peers. So that is a critical piece of, good mental health for anyone, regardless of age and stage. What are those strong relationships that you have surrounding yourselves, and how do those relationships evolve over time as you kind of evolve over time as a person as well? The third piece is feeling connected to others. So how often are we feeling emotionally available to others? Are we feeling empathetic towards someone's situation? Is there a sense of sympathy, perhaps with, maybe someone that's less fortunate than us? So all of those psychological factors are key to maintaining good mental health, so that you can know that you are on the right path, you're doing the right things, and you are feeling that sense of connection to others that are in your lives, right? It could be your neighbors, it could be someone, down the street that you, hang out with and walk your dogs together, or it could be even a sibling that is very close to you. And that's really that sense of connectedness that, is tied very deeply to our overall well-being. Having a good sense of self, which is number 4, is also a deeply internalized piece for that good mental health strategy, right? Are you feeling good about yourself? Do you feel confident in your abilities? Are you someone that is always, overshadowed with self-doubt? Are you finding that it is hard for you to show up in your most authentic self? And if that's the case, then maybe that's a little bit of a trigger to say, okay, maybe my mental health is suffering. Maybe I need to look at that a little bit. And I'm not really feeling that good sense of self when I'm showing up, either at work or in your personal life. And the fifth one, I mean, is my favorite because it speaks to resilience and how we cope with stress. And there's so many strategies, that people can apply. But that one's an interesting one because it talks about how we deal with stressors that come our way, right? And I personally don't know anybody in my life that has never dealt with a stressor. I mean, that is across the board. Everyone has, stresses that they take on, be it personal or professional. But it's really how we show up when we are in those stressful situations. How do we cope with those stressors? What does that look like? Do we behave differently? Does it impact our mood? And if we are looking at stress in a healthy manner and responding to those stressors in a healthy manner, then for sure we can say that, there's good mental health surrounding us. And the last one is just enjoying life, right? Enjoyment is a big, big part of how we view our own mental health and well-being. It speaks to the fact that, everyone should have one or two things in their lives that they do just for the heck of it, for that happiness, that joy that it brings to the table for them. And I know Mary Kondo says it really well. If it sparks joy, then that's really what you should be doing. So that kind of ties everything together for people is, if you're enjoying life, you're living a purposeful, kind of like, professional and personal pieces aligned, and you have those really strong relationships and bonds as you go through that life, then you can certainly say that there's good mental health around you. Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, all great comments, Austin. As you were going through them, I couldn't help but think of the work that Dan Buettner's done with Blue Zones, and many of our listeners may know the work Blue Zones. And so just to back up, Dan Buettner was a National Geographic photographer. So he would go around the world taking pictures. And what he noticed is there were communities in the world where people weren't just living a little longer, they were living exponentially longer than other communities. And he called those areas blue zones, and they had, again, not a few percent, like 10,000% higher number of centenarians, people that live over 100. And so what his life work is actually studying those blue zones and the traits and the characteristics of those people that live those long and healthy lives. And I couldn't help, actually, when you were going through this on mental health, to just think that it's almost identical to what the traits are for the blue zones. Right. So it's just, we think of mental health because it's going to make us feel good and give us positive energy and help us get through our day. But what I'm also saying is that long term, it helps our physical health as well. Right.
That's a great point. No, and there is actually a Netflix documentary on that. I see in the chat someone's commented, and that's exactly it. It's a beautiful documentary if anyone wants to take a peek at it.
Yeah. Good. So I think we have a poll question. If we could, Crystal, if we could please post this. So the question is pretty simply, have you or your family, friends ever dealt with a mental health issue? And we're interested to see if the stats are in line with what we're seeing out across Canada right now.
So far, it's 100% yes from all the polls coming in. So no surprises there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see one no. Okay, thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So next, we just want to switch gears and just talk about the state of mental health in Canada. And you know what I'd say to people, pretty much everybody I talk to has been affected by mental health issues, whether it's them, their family, their kids, their grandparents, their friends, their coworkers. Most of us have had some sort of impact from mental health. And so I just wanted to share some of the stats that we see each and every day. So 1 in 5 people will personally experience mental health problems or mental health illness throughout their lifetime. And if I, again, put on my employee benefits hat, I look at claim scans all the times. And what I look at is, what are the percentage of claims that are coming to prescription drugs that are coming through that are associated with mental health, like antidepressants, so depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever the medication may be. And traditionally, it's over 20% of claims, or 20% of the employee group are taking some sort of prescription for mental health. So that falls right in line with 1 in 5 people are dealing with some mental health issues. Depression and major depression affects over 5% of the population, and anxiety disorders, and these are serious anxiety disorders, affect 4.6% of the population. Where we see a lot of mental health issues right now is particularly with youth, and it's concerning. I mean, I'm a parent. We've had children. You know, our children have obviously gone through high school and university, and now working. But it's that's where we're seeing to see a major surge in mental health issues right now. So over 20% of Canadian youth are affected by mental illness. And the next one I don't even like to report on is that suicide is the second leading cause of death among those 15 to 34 years. And the only thing that trumps that is accidents, right? So suicide's a big issue. And often we don't hear about it, we don't see it. But again, it's the second leading cause of death from age 15 to 34. And again, if I put my benefits hat on, where I see a lot of mental health medications are in that age group, kind of 15 to 30. It almost is in line with that stat on suicide. And the next one, today we're here obviously to talk about women and what we can do and the solutions we can provide to women, but twice as many women experience depression than men. And I just think I think there's just so many pressures on women. I mean, what I see, I mean, pretty much our whole company are women. So I see it. They're working hard. They've got professional responsibilities. They have personal responsibilities. They're the caregiver for their family. They're the ones that are getting groceries. They're the ones that are doing, arranging their trips. Like, there's just a lot of balls in the air. So it doesn't surprise me, that stat, that twice as many women experience depression than men. And then a third of older Canadians, and that's where we see another surge, is a third of older Canadians report feeling lonely, like actually report feeling lonely on an ongoing basis. So that's kind of the state of what we're seeing right now. So when we ask the question, who of you have been impacted by mental health, whether it's your family or your coworkers or your employees or your mother or your sister, whatever it is, most of us, I think pretty much all of us have been affected one way or the other by mental health or mental illness issues. Okay. And I think we have a second poll question here. If we can just put that up as well.
Yep.
And Asta, would you mind just reading it out?
For sure, yeah. What is the leading cause of disability in Canada? So we have 4 options: mental illness, pain, heart disease, or diabetes.
Yep, and a lot of very smart people here. Mental illness. Yeah, it is the leading cause of disability right now. It's actually accounts for over 30% of disability claims are mental health related right now. So, and again, I've been in the business a lot of years. Years ago, that wasn't the case at all. So again, over 30% of claims are mental health related. And I think the issue is when we compare it to other when we compare it to other illnesses, people just don't talk about it. I mean, people are talking about it now, but this is in Canada. Just to give you an idea, people have no issue talking about heart disease, and they have high cholesterol and that type of thing, and they have high diabetes, and they're on diabetic medication, and they're on Ozempic. But people don't really go around talking about the fact that they're suffering mental health or mental illness. And you look at the stats here; it's triple the number of diabetics. Like, diabetes is growing in our country, unfortunately. But you look at 2.2 million Canadians right now are suffering with diabetes, but 6.7 million are dealing with mental illness or mental health issues. Right. So it's substantial. So it's not, if you're, I guess the point is, if you're feeling that you're alone in this, you're not. Like, it's super common, and we're all dealing with this on an ongoing basis. And the issue becomes when we do have those mental health issues, or our family members have these mental health issues, then it's access. It's like, okay, now if you come forward and you actually admit that you have a mental health issue or you need some help, then it's, well, how do you get help, and where is that help? And this just shows you, and again, this is from Health Canada, but it just shows you the wait times. So the wait times right now to see a psychologist or a therapist is 3 months. So just thinking, if you're dealing, or your daughter or yourself, you're dealing with a mental health issue, or you're, whether it's anxiety or depression, whatever it is, and you need to talk to a therapist, you're basically looking at over 11 weeks or 3 months to get that treatment. And then if you need to see a psychiatrist, so it's more serious, this is on average wait time in Canada is 22.4 weeks. And then for ongoing treatment, let's say you need some treatment, it's 25.6 weeks. So it's half a year, right? So you think of situations where people need this assistance, and the issue is the wait times. They can't get it. And we hear all the time, I mean, we're in this business, we hear all the time that people are waiting a year or longer for this type of treatment. And it's just so important. We just had a situation where a business owner, unfortunately, his daughter tried to commit suicide, ended up in the hospital. And he called me 2 days later because she was being let out of the hospital with what he felt weren't the proper supports in place. So he was concerned that this would happen again. And fortunately, he used our company and our therapists and our network to get immediate help for his daughter. But he phoned me with the concern was, she's getting out and she really hasn't solved it. We don't even know what the issue is, like why she even tried to commit suicide in the first place, right? So I just say these wait times, especially with mental health issues, and when I relate back to the earlier slide I shared in youth suicide, I think, is that because they can't get the treatment that you need? Like, is that because our system's letting them down? I certainly hope not, but it's concerning. So then, when we talk about barriers to mental health, I'll say mental health support, there's a few things. One is the wait times, as we just went through. I mean, if you or your family or your children or whoever, if they can't get treatment for half a year, or they can't even get to talk to the right person for half a year, that's very concerning, right? Because what's going to happen over that time period? And it could be everything from, as we saw earlier, it could be suicide, could be substance abuse, could be alcohol abuse, whatever their own remedies are. The second piece that we see with mental health is it's not just wait times, but it's what type of specialist do I go to? And people aren't aware. Do I go to, should I see a social worker? Should I see a psychologist? Should I see a psychiatrist? People don't know. And often conditions can be treated, let's say, by a social worker that necessarily don't need a psychiatrist. So you need someone to help you navigate to the right specialist, whatever that right specialist is. Another barrier we see is just the price for treatment. I mean, the average price to see a psychiatrist, a psychologist right now across Canada varies anywhere from $250 to $300 per visit, right? Which is per hour. And a lot of benefit programs right now are, I'll say prior years, they would cover $500 per year for mental health supports. Now, a lot of companies are going to $1,000. But you think of that, if it's $250 or $300 an hour, that really will cover 3 visits, and that's it. And then so the barrier to entry is ongoing treatment, right? So that's a concern. And then the last barrier is just a lot of the supports out there are not personalized. It's kind of one step fits all, or sorry, one size fits all versus having a personalized a solution for people, because every mental health situation is different and it needs to be personalized. Okay. And you'll see the stat on the left there that 60% of people with mental health problems and mental illness won't seek help because because there's a stigma attached to it, right? Which we're going to talk about right now. And that's very concerning. So Asta, I'll turn it over to you to talk about stigma.
Thanks, Kev. And there are many reasons why stigma around mental health has continued to prevail, right? Like we've seen over the years, a lot of campaigns, a lot of nonprofits coming into the space and saying, hey, like, let's talk about it and let's be open about it. But I think some of the stuff around just opening up about it is scary, right? A lot of people aren't sure if others in their life will view them in a negative way. And that's really the bottom line of stigma. It's when someone views you with a negative light because you have something that's uniquely characteristic about a particular trait. And you believe in your sort of heart of hearts that that's a disadvantage. And often stigma will lead to discrimination as well. So if someone, you know, has been discriminated against when they have openly shared about their mental health challenges, or have disclosed, let's say maybe even to an employer that they have a mental illness, then obviously that cycle doesn't break for them. They, you know, take that negative experience and they take it along with them in their lives, and it just builds upon that stigma over time. And it also doesn't encourage them to seek support, which can be another barrier to care, right? Is the harmful impact of that stigma then extends to reluctance in people for them to reach out and say, hey, I need help, I need treatment, you know, I need to speak to an expert. There's also an additional layer to this, speaking to that piece around, you know, having your tribe with you and knowing, you know, who to connect with and building that community with you, is when people see that those around them, especially their family members, their friends or colleagues, aren't really understanding what their challenges are, then they shut down. And a lot of times, you know, that is a discouraging sort of behavior for them to even come up and say, hey, you know, I think I'm struggling, or this situation is challenging me in ways that I didn't know it could, and it's causing me some stress and harm, and I need help. So that's more of a takeaway even for us, you know, that may be supporting other people that may be going through mental illness as well, is to say, hey, we can be there as their support group and their support mechanism too. And a lot of times the harmful impact extends to not just, you know, missed opportunities at work, school, or social activities, but specifically for the teenage and youth population, there could be harmful bullying or even harassment and physical violence involved. And again, that's such a vulnerable stage for kids and youth that it can really put a damper on the way that they interpret the stigma of mental health and disclosure and even seeking support, which then leads into the last point is, you know, over time with those missed opportunities, it does impact people. It does impact people's self-esteem and doesn't allow them to build their self-confidence over time. So bottom line, stigma around mental health definitely needs to be challenged. I think we all have a role to play in that, even if it's for ourselves, being open, you know, and sharing and asking for help, seeking help when we need it, or the role that we play as supporters, as friends or family members, or even colleagues, and how we can show up for people when they do disclose that to us is important. I'll turn it back over to you, Kevin.
Great, thank you. Can we just go to the next slide, just in the essence of time, and we can share that. So,
and we'll throw that slide over for people as well.
So again, with all these issues with mental health, I'd like to just go back to what our solution is. And just to give you a little background, because Nancy wanted me to share this, obviously, because we've created a solution, but I'd just like to give you the background first. I go out and speak to a lot of groups, as Nancy referred to. And I was speaking last year, about a year and a half ago, to a group of presidents and CEOs out in the Vancouver area. And one of the leaders that headed up the Nurses Association for BC, so British Columbia nurses, she was in the audience. And she reached out to me after and she said, Kevin, she said, you know, nurses right now are at an all-time stress level. This is at the end of COVID. She said, you know, there's immense stress, there's long shifts, people are dying on their shifts, they don't want to go into work, they're in their car in the parking lot. And she said, do you offer a mental health on demand program? And I said, what do you mean by that? Like, explain that to me. And she said, you know, right now we use a standard employee assistance program, which many of you might have heard about, an EAP program. And she said, you know, we talk to a triage, we talk to a call center, and then we talk to somebody else. And then like a week later, we might get to talk to somebody we really need to talk to. She said, our nurses need somebody like right away, like a psychiatrist, a clinician, like right away. And I said, you know, we know every mental health provider in Canada. I'm sure there's somebody that is doing that. So we went out across Canada to all our different providers in the mental health space, and no one that we could find was offering mental health on demand. So we went to one of our providers and we said, you know, we're pretty sure if you help us build this program, that we can probably look after the nurses of British Columbia. So we spent the better part of a year building this program, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. And the program was instituted in July of last year, government funded by the Ministry of Health, to give the nurses of the BC, which is 56,000 nurses, access to mental health on demand. And last time I was in Vancouver, I met with the executive committee, and they were just beside themselves in how great the program was and what it was delivering to their nursing population. And one stat they shared with me, which was interesting, is their usage on the program prior to us developing this program was under 5%. So less than 5% of their population was actually using the call it employee assistance program, and which was largely being used for mental health. And when we met with them, the usage was 21.7%, so almost 22%, which falls in line with the stats I was sharing earlier, that basically 1 out of 5 of us or our family members are dealing with some mental health issue. The good news is the support is there, and that's what we built for them. So now we're offering this as a standalone program. It's part of our individual program, Nancy, that you're part of, but we're also offering it to companies, associations, organizations across Canada now, just this as a standalone program. So I'd just like to share the key components of it with you. The first is 24/7 access to mental health on demand. And that means I'm in a stressful situation. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to turn to. I need somebody to talk to. I'm going to get on my phone and talk to somebody. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It could be Christmas night. It could be Thanksgiving, middle of the night. Doesn't matter when it is. That's the mental health on demand component of it, which is kind of the entry point. The next piece of it is, let's say you've used that mental health on demand support, and then you need ongoing therapy. In other words, the clinician, and sorry, you're talking not to a call center, you're talking to a level 3 or above master's level clinician. Let's say they suggest that you may be in your best interest to have some ongoing therapy. In most organizations or most of these programs, the company tells you who your therapist is. The difference with the program we built is you pick your therapist. So you put in your conditions, maybe let's say you're dealing with anxiety or stress. So you would put that in, and there's a number of questions on the app. And then let's say you want to deal with a female, and let's say you want to deal with a female with certain characteristics. Then you actually define the characteristics based on questions, and then the app will match you with 1 or 2 or 3 specialists that you can pick. So you are picking your own therapist. And the first hour or the first visit is complimentary. And then the second thing we've negotiated is a $90 per hour rate. So back to my earlier point of one of the barriers to entry is just the high cost of treatment. You think, again, I'll use an example of a company. Let's say your benefits provider gives you $1,000 of coverage, and you go to it through the traditional therapy route, which is $250 to $300 an hour. You're likely going to get 3 visits covered, and that's it, right? Through this program, you need ongoing therapy. You're getting 10 or 11 visits covered, with the first one being complimentary. And if for some reason after the first visit you go, I didn't really connect with that therapist, I want to try another one, you can go right back on the app and choose another therapist as well. So again, instead of some company telling you what you need, who your therapist is, you choose your own therapist. And then the next one is just it's a collaborative approach to your case. So many cases are very complex, and often it takes a team of specialists to look at the case, whether it's psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, whatever's required, to do a full analysis, because maybe you weren't even diagnosed with the right thing in the first place. And that happens a lot, especially with mental health. People weren't diagnosed with the right thing in the first place, or they perhaps are on the wrong medication. So that's a team of specialists that are going to review the case. And then for a lot of people, internet cognitive behavior therapy is another tool that's available. So the best way to think about this, if you can just go to the next slide, is everything from, I just need help right now, like I need somebody to talk to right now, to ongoing therapy, to full case review. Everything is covered under this program. So you don't need to go to different providers for different levels of treatment. I'll call it one-stop shopping for you or your family for mental health. So, anything to add to that slide?
Not to this slide, but there's great conversation going on in the chat too. So thank you everyone for engaging with us. And absolutely, there's an impact throughout for people that are remote and working from home, especially our younger population. And just worldwide, we're finding anxiety and depression is growing. I think for Canadian context specifically, what I will also say for this type of program in place is it's very important that each of the pieces are interconnected, because otherwise what we've also found is that you may be speaking to a therapist on your own. Let's just say you found someone in your community or your best friend recommended one and you love him. And then there might be, you know, a specialist thing going on here. And then separately, you may be on meds through your psychiatry team. If none of them are talking to each other, like that could actually be a risk factor to you, right? Because they don't know what the other one has recommended for you. So it's really important that whichever platform you're on, that you know that the providers, the experts are closing the loop on your case and that they're aware of exactly what's going on at each point in time after each appointment, so that you're getting comprehensive care and not just snippets or siloed approaches to your care as well. So I think that's a relevant piece for Canadians specifically.
Great, thanks, Asta. So I think at this point, we'll just open it up to any questions. So I'm not sure, Asta, if there's questions in the chat or whether there's new questions.
I've been tackling some of them. Yes, no, thanks. There was some around data and the impact of working from home. So I've been tackling some of those, but you know, thank you, Lori, for asking that question. The question was, is there any data around the impact of working from home, especially for younger employees that are less established in their work communities? And that's quite relevant, right? Because a lot of us are living hybrid lives. I mean, look at this, right? This interaction is happening thanks to the hybrid world and technology, but there are downsides to that. It does play a role in feelings of loneliness and isolation. Some research has also found that, you know, if you are missing out on face-to-face interactions, you are actually amplifying your risk for depression and anxiety. So it's very important to take that balanced approach to work and life, and that helps people tackle that really well. There was another question around just DBT programs and self-led programs and pairing in with a specialist. So I know Kev mentioned just on our program specifically that there is the ability to pair with your custom personalized therapist. So that's definitely out there for anyone that's leaning into this type of program. In addition to that, on the back end, there's also specialty care that's all encompassed in our collaborative care model. And what that means is your therapist may want to speak to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or get a mental health nurse to do a check-in with you. And that's accessible to you without the wait times and without the hoops that you have to jump through sometimes in the public healthcare system. Obviously, our family doctors are great when we can see them, but sometimes there's limited amount of time to, you know, really discuss highly complicated mental health issues. And also, we always have to remember that they're not the experts in mental health and well-being, right? So it's really important to connecting to the right expert. And the starting point in this type of program can be your therapist, but just know that they have the support of a psychologist or a psychiatrist on the back end as well. And you'll be able to lean into that support as well. I see Nancy's question. Kev, do you want to read that out?
Sure. Yeah, there's a question saying, not necessarily related to mental health. Please tell us some successes re candidates showing up at stage 4 when it could have been prevented in early diagnosis. Yeah, a lot of the work we do, not just related to mental health, but just health in general, is on the preventative side. So we do, what we recommend for our members is, I'll call it advanced testing that many people don't even know exists. And I'll just give an example of one. One is called a full body scan that we send a lot of our members for. And it will show, it'll pick up like pre-stroke, it'll show arterial damage, it'll show cancers let's say in stage 1, like a little shadow on the kidney, as I mentioned earlier with kidney cancer, or a little shadow on the pancreas. I mean, I talked to a lady 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, that was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, pancreatic cancer, and hadn't been feeling well. And, same story, went to her doctor, wasn't feeling well, did some tests, went back, still wasn't feeling well, and eventually diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I just felt so bad for her because, I mean, we're still helping her out and getting the best solutions for her at this stage, but there's testing out there that will pick this stuff up early. And I read about this stuff all the time. Like I spend my full time, evenings and nights reading about health, and all I do is read health books. I mean, the key is early detection, whether it's cancer, whether it's heart. I mean, even with heart disease, we think we just have a heart attack. We didn't just have a heart attack. Like our arteries have been narrowing and plaques been building up for probably 20 or 30 years, right? So the key is preventative testing. So hopefully, Nancy, hopefully that answers your question.
And there's more information on our plans in addition to mental health on demand right on our website that I've put up on this slide. So it's just advicahealth.com. If anyone's interested in learning more, I'll also throw in Kevin's email in the chat before we wrap. But there is just in the chat a quick request to show the well-being slide. So I'm going to assume that it's this slide that you were referring to, Jolly, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. This was, I mean, we'll share this as well with folks. This was here more so from a purpose of, sharing some of the best practices for mental well-being with everyone on the call. They're not any type of hacks. I know the word, health hacks has been going around and it's quite popular now. It's the good old basic stuff, right? It's like, make social connections a priority, keep active, move your body. I personally like the one, appealing to your senses is very important for mental health and well-being, like whatever you enjoy, if it's listening to music or, taking a walk in nature, looking around. It's just always something that helps ground you. And that definitely, helps and has been shown through research to help people with their mental illness as well as their mental health. Taking up yoga or mindfulness meditation, can't go wrong with that. Eating a brain healthy diet is also very key. So there's tons of research on that around, having healthy fats and omega-3s and nuts and all the good things that support our physical well-being. It's all interconnected, as we talked about. Sleep is a big one for a lot of people, especially busy women, as we have in our title here. Please prioritize your sleep. Not just quantity, but quality is important. And then the last one is just, please get help. You're not alone, like Kevin was saying earlier. It's important to definitely put yourself first. There was one question that Nancy, you had put in the chat as well. I see family estrangement and loneliness in women. And I think I can tackle all of that together, if that's okay. It's no surprise that women are experiencing higher levels of loneliness than men. So that's definitely a stat that we're seeing in Canada. Among older adults, so let's say 65 and over, we're finding that loneliness grows with increasing age. Again, not a shocker, right? Like we are lonelier as we age and kids move out and you're kind of on your own, especially let's say if you lose your spouse, that's even harder. And then what we're finding is if there is any type of chronic disease that creeps in or any type of functional mental health concerns, then that adds a layer to that loneliness as well. So that's definitely a concern for a lot of people. The one thing that's showing up as a protective factor, and again, it's research backed, is actually financial resources. So financial well-being, and I know the team and Nancy do tons of other webinars on that, but that's found to have protective factors built right into it. So if you are securing your financial well-being as you age and retire and work into that stage of life, then that helps with all the other factors as well. I don't know if there are any other questions. I'm going to stop sharing, but let me see if I can tackle more. What about spouses who are dealing with a spouse who has dementia? Whoa, yes, that's a big one. Rates of dementia and Alzheimer's in Canada are quite staggering. Like the last thing I read on that was that we are, and this is not a study we want to be leading in, by the way, but we are globally leading in that in terms of number of dementia cases that we're seeing in Canada. The jury's still out as to why, but yeah, that can be a rough one. I think for some of our members that have been dealing with either Alzheimer's or dementia with their partners, I think it's very important for them to tap into our team's expertise, not just for their care navigation, like for their partner's care navigation, but also just subtle reminders to say, you got to take care of yourself as well as a caregiver, right? Caregiver burnout is a big issue as well. And that also extends to not just taking care of your spouse who may have, you know, a mental health concern or a chronic disease, but you also have the sandwich generation. I don't know if people have heard of that, but it's like you're taking care of young kids and then you're taking care of older parents. Like that's a massive issue as well, especially as the Canadian population is aging and many of our parents-in-laws are in that bracket. So yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, Asta, I guess just reinforce your point. We have a lot of members that are in that situation where they're looking after their parents. I mean, we're going through that ourselves right now, right? You still have your kids you're looking after, but you're also looking after your parents and dementia and everything else. So I just saw a comment that refers to that, and I agree with it. I feel there's a huge strain on the age I am, where I'm dealing with teens and aging parents. And incidentally, when you look at mental health stats, the biggest bubbles are actually 15 to 30 and seniors over age 65. Like those are the two biggest bubbles of right now that are where people are being affected by mental health. So obviously, you know, that can be an issue. And I think this service can be a great resource where one can have help rather than becoming the family therapist. I agree. I mean, you know, we've had some family issues with mental health issues, and it was more around stress and anxiety with teenagers. And as a parent, we think we know how to talk to our kids, right? We actually think, oh, I can do this. I can handle this. I can fix them or help them. And, you know, I know with one of our children, she had through our service, actually had for one meeting one night and two more that week. So 3 in 1 week. And I don't even know what they talked about, but it was 100%. But like it was to the point that I was going to actually have to hop on a plane and go, and because she was down in New York, and go see her. She was going to school down there, but didn't have to do that because the therapist knew exactly what to say and how to talk to them, right? So there is a science around this. And to your point, to Lori's point there, I think, you know, often as parents, we think we can handle this stuff. You know what? You need professionals. That's all I'll say. In this space, you need professionals.
That's a great point. Oh.
Yeah,
Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Often what happens is, you know, your go-to person is the family doctor, if you're lucky enough to have a family doctor. But once you get to the family doctor, guess what they want to talk about? How stressed they are and how they could only see you for one condition at a time. And it's like, you end up being the career counselor to the doctor. It's like, this is too crazy. So I was most keen for you to share your on-demand approach and how it works, because, you know, if people have tolerated so many things for so long and really need some help, how does this all work? Do they truly get help? Do they truly get help? And it ranges from teens all the way through to, you know, the over 90 crowd, I guess the over 100 crowd. But Women's College Hospital is now starting a whole new research project on, they call it the Women's Age Lab, and it is what happens to women as they age. And that is so incredibly powerful because we all know that women live longer than men. Most do, not everyone does. But, you know, where are they? And we also know that women are more likely to have Alzheimer's than men. And so again, all sorts of challenges. So anyway, thank you for all of the information that you've shared. I think people will send a replay to everybody who has registered, and not everybody was present today. So I know they'll be keen to hear the replay, but also your info will be there about Advica Health, and they can reach out to you, and then you can answer any questions that they have with regards to their own situation. But just for the group, I postponed putting off signing up on a monthly basis until just recently because my husband broke his hip. And, you know, the doctor, if you can believe this, said, 25% of my patients are dead within a year. What? Because they die of depression. They die because they won't do the treatment. And of course, my husband is a 25% guy. I'm the 75% person. I'd be saying, well, too bad about that 25% that died. But the whole point is you need to have access to other health-related resources to at least get a second opinion and to possibly get some assistance on how you can be healthy going forward. One more thing, Kevin, tell them what the name of your book is, and Crystal can probably put it in the chat so people know.
Yeah, so I wrote a book on my own health journey because I myself had a few health challenges, including being in a coma for a week and coming out of that, and then actually I thought I was living a healthy life, but I had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, was diabetic, and I turned my life around. I mean, I'm going to the World Triathlon Championships representing Canada for the 9th time this year. So my book is about what I did to change my life around, and it's all around balance, like life balance, sleeping well, eating well, mental health, and exercise, and kind of how I transform my life and how I try to live every day now. But the name of my book is called It's Never Too Late to Be Healthy: Reaching Peak Health in Middle Age. So it's never too late to be healthy. You can order it on Amazon. You can go on our website, Advica Health website as well. And 100% of the proceeds go to the YMCA to send kids to camp that otherwise can't afford it. So it's all going to a charitable cause as well. So so that's how you can access the book.
And I'll put the link in the chat as well so people can take it.
Perfect. And it's got 32 of my favorite healthy recipes as well in there.
Yum, 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 yum. And it's strawberry season, so maybe strawberries are in there. Strawberry and spinach salad, probably.
The spinach salad for sure.
Okay. Any final comments or questions from anyone? Okay, it's a wrap. Thank you so much, Kevin and Ashta.
Thank you, Nancy and Crystal. It's been a pleasure, and appreciate everyone joining. Midweek afternoons can be tricky, so I appreciate everyone showing up to the session.
No, excellent. And also, when you get your replay, please send us comments. Give us feedback. What did you like? What didn't you like? What other topics would you like to see us cover? Well, obviously, we're taking the summer off, but we'll be back in full form in the fall. Maybe it's more on mental health. Who knows? But the one thing that I really wanted you to know about was the on-demand feature that Advica offers. So thank you, everybody.
Excellent.
Happy trails. Stay cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.